It's a crossover Thursday here on the LockedOn Giants podcast. John Hickman, co-host of the LockedOn Texans podcast, joins me. We're going to give you the biggest stories, the key matchups, and some predictions coming up next here on the LockedOn Giants podcast.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily New York Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Crossover Thursday is presented by our friends at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is so much fun and it's easy to play. There's no competing with other players, just you versus the projections available. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. It can literally take less than 60 seconds to enter. It's that easy. We love Prize Picks, and we know you will too. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with the promo code LOCKEDON. That's prizepicks.com, promo code LOCKEDON. All right, Giant and Texan fans, welcome to the crossover edition of the Locked On podcast. We've got Patricia Traina, yours truly, the host of Locked On Giants, and John Hickman, who is co-host of Locked On Texans. And we are here. Yes, we are going to talk about the top stories ahead of this Week 10 matchup. We're going to talk about key matchups. We're going to have predictions. And we're going to, most important of all, John, we're going to have some fun on this podcast. We don't get a chance to talk very often. So it's great to see you, my friend. Hope everything is well. You ready to kick this off?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it, man. We are going to talk first about the top stories for the Giants and Texans. And since the Texans are the visiting team, we've got to be hospitable here in the New York area. So, John, let's kick it off with you. What do you see as the top stories for the Houston Texans?
Well, first of all, thank you for kicking it off and letting me get it. Don't meet too many New Yorkers with Southern hospitality, and that's what we have down here. But I think the biggest storyline for the Houston Texans right now is getting the Collins boys back. And I'm talking about Nico Collins at wide receiver and Malik Collins, our defensive tackle. Listen, the Houston Texans have not been able to stop the run the entire year. We know that, blah, 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 play the violin. However, without Malik Collins, it's even worse. We got to look at Malik Collins as the most stable veteran defensive tackle among that front. And then we look at Thomas Booker. He's a rookie. Kurt Hennish, he's a rookie. A lot of first and second year guys trying to fill that void outside of Jaleel Johnson, who they signed about a week and a half ago now. So Malik Collins coming back is phenomenal. And Nico Collins, who at this point of the season looks to be the Houston Texans' best number one receiver. And they don't have a number one receiver, but if it was, it'll be Nico. Missed him last game. They've missed his big play ability the game he was out. So getting him back versus the New York Giants that's dealing with some injuries on the back end will be very helpful for Davis Mills and this offense.
All right. And of course, the Giants, they have Saquon Barkley. You talk about the run defense. We're going to get into matchups in the second segment. But for the Giants, they are coming off a bye. They are 17-34 off of bye weeks. So not a very good record, but this is a new era for Giant football. And I think the key story, or one of the key stories, was one that was kind of unexpected, because here you have the NFL's second most injured team. And I don't know how they did it, John, but the Giants found a way to get injured during their bye week. I'm laughing because it's, it's not funny, but it's kind of funny because only the Giants this would happen to. The Giants lost safety Xavier McKinney to a freak accident. It was a broken hand suffered during his vacation down in Cabo, Mexico. Now, McKinney is going to be okay, but currently on the NFI, he was a key cog, if you will, in the Giants defense, especially for that run defense, which has been kind of shaky to begin with. McKinney going to miss 4 games, so he's out. That means increased reps for rookie Dane Belton, who he's coming along. This is a kid who unfortunately had to miss some of or most of training camp. He had a broken collarbone. He was back in time for the regular season. So he's going to obviously be called upon to fill in some of that role that McKinney had. You're going to see Julian Love obviously take over the play calling for the defense. And I'm curious to see if Landon Collins comes up. Landon Collins currently on the practice squad, but he's a box safety. He's been doing a little bit of inside linebacker for the Giants. They've got to stop Dameon Pierce. And,
Absolutely.
I'm jumping ahead on matchups here, but that run defense of the Giants ranked, I think, 25th overall. They're allowing something like 109 yards per game to opponents. Not very good, not very sharp. Wink Martindale, the defensive coordinator today, spoke about that a little bit. He says, some weeks we've had to give up something to gain in other areas. But weekly, I mean, the Giants have been getting gashed. And Pierce is a guy that I think is going to give Wink some more sleepless nights as he figures out how he's going to stop this potential rookie of the year candidate on the offensive side.
Absolutely. Dameon Pierce right now, one thing that he's doing is not only is he getting to the second level, but he's making it hard for players to bring him down once he's there. Right? We look at Houston and some of the up and down battles they've had offensively on the offensive line. But what I can say is, in certain, Paul Quisenberry has helped Houston out along with AJ Cann, the rookie Kenyon Green at left guard. He struggles in pass protection. He'll get there, but in run blocking, he's moving bodies out the way, and that has really helped out Dameon Pierce. Patricia, you guys have somebody coming back, Kenny Golladay, coming back, and New York really needs someone that can step up at that wide receiver spot. Giants general manager Joe Shane did not bring in a wide receiver at the deadline. Do you expect Kenny Golladay to get some of those contested looks, seeing how he hasn't been as effective at creating separation like he has in the past?
I think so. It's interesting. Kenny Golladay, in the beginning of the year, even during going back to training camp, there were times he seemed into it and times that his head seemed somewhere else. When the Giants traded Kadarius Toney, it was almost like a wake-up call for Kenny Golladay. It's like, hey, I'm on a winning team for the first time in my career, and I have a chance to be part of something special. So I do think Golladay, who missed I think it was the last 4 games with a knee injury, I think he has a fire under his belly. I think he's gonna, come back and not dog it, not, give it a half-baked effort. As far as contested looks, I know they want to get the ball to him. Sometimes they're able to, sometimes they're not. I know early in the season there were times they just couldn't get it to him, and when they did, he didn't do anything with it. So the important thing for Golladay is if they do go to him, he's got to make the effort. He's got to show that he's reliable, he's trustworthy, and he can come down with the plays and not drop passes the way he was doing. And I think if he does that, he can give the Giants what they have been missing in that receiving core, and that is a legitimate playmaker. All right, coming up next on the Locked On Giants podcast, the Locked On Texans podcast, as we do this crossover Thursday, we're going to talk matchups. So don't go away, folks. And now a word from our sponsor, Blue Nile. Whether you're looking to pop the question or you have a milestone to celebrate, Blue Nile can help you make your celebrations even more memorable. Blue Nile offers the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. And they have helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring, including the one worn by yours truly. Use their easy online tools to create the perfect engagement ring. Or if you're looking for that special one-of-a-kind piece to commemorate a special occasion, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7 available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift no matter what your budget. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped free in discreet packaging. They also offer overnight shipping if you're in a rush. So go ahead and make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON to save $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. Again, that website is Blue Nile, BlueNile.com, and that promo code is Locked On to save $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, promo code Locked On.
Welcome back in, Locked On Texans and Locked On Giants listeners and viewers out there. Thank you for spending your day. I know you're listening to us every day with us here with the Locked On Texans and Locked On Giants podcast. Matchups are super important But we look at safety Xavier McKinney. He will be out Sunday. And now the defensive play calling duties have been delegated to Julian Love. Love is a player who I personally thought Houston could have benefited from bringing him in, during the 2019 draft. Texans had 3 opportunities to get that young man. As a football player, he's been remarkable in terms of his growth and his leadership. And 4 seasons in, he's a part of the Giants' DNA. With McKinney out, that matchup of safety alongside the rookie, how important will Julian Love be for any success this team can have defensively?
They don't call him duct tape for nothing. Julian Love does so much in this defense. I mean, he plays safety. Sometimes he plays in the slot. A few times you'll see him, play deep down in the box. Sometimes he'll play out on the island. He's a guy who can truly do it all. Now he's going to add play calling. Well, the relaying of the plays, I should say, and getting the defense line up. So this is a guy, and I know you're a big fan of Julian Love's.
I am.
Very, very intelligent young man, comes from Notre Dame. Football IQ is off the charts. His general IQ is just off the charts. Mad respect for him. And this is going to be a big matchup, like I said, because you've got the run game. The run defense has not been what it needs to be for the Giants. And some weeks, like I said, that has been done purposely. And some weeks it's just been a matter of them getting gashed, particularly at the second level where their linebackers just haven't been good. So this is going to be very key. And Julian Love, he's such a student of the game. He dissects it. He sits with the film. He's with the coaches. He's preparing for this one. And I think Julian Love is going to come in and, I'm not saying, he's got the same skill set as Xavier McKinney. Nobody does. Everybody's unique. But I think Julian Love is going to handle it beautifully. And hopefully there will not be that much of a drop-off in that particular matchup.
Yeah, he's just a remarkable, like you said, smart football player, Notre Dame background, a player that on 3 occasions I'm looking at the screen, take him. Houston didn't do that, and I think it's been haunting them ever since. Although we do have a very good safety rookie here in town, Jalen Petrie, so we made up for it 3 years later.
Yes, and Julian Love, by the way, I think when he was drafted, I want to say in the 4th round.
I think
and everybody was
108 or something like that.
Something like that. But I remember everybody saying the Giants got a major steal. And it's hard to believe that it took his rookie season, they barely played him. It's so hard to believe that. But,
I think it's because of the growth that he needed for the NFL level.
They were trying. I think they were trying to. Obviously they wanted to convert him to safety, and he had to learn the position. But he picked it up quickly. And I also think, if I'm not mistaken, when he came in, the defensive coordinator, was it Betcher at the time? I think it might have been James Betcher. They just couldn't figure out how to use him, and he had to wait his turn. And to his credit, he did. And now he's a full-time starter, a key cog, a guy that I am fairly certain the front office wants to re-sign. Hopefully they get him re-signed before he hits free agency so you guys can get your mitts on him. So yes, that's certainly a key matchup. Now, from the Giants' perspective, we talk about the running game. Saquon, he's back, man. Baby. Saquon Barkley.
Oh, my gosh.
And against that Texan run defense, you mentioned in the last segment, the Texans are hopefully getting back a couple guys to help with that run defense. Saquon's just not your average runner. He can burn you up the middle. He can burn you to the outside. He's so good with those misdirection plays. And Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator, has finally put together a system that makes the best use of Saquon's talents. And not just as a runner, but as a receiver. They line him up out wide. A couple times he's lined up in the slot. He's been a receiver out of the backfield. So how do you stop him if you're the Texans?
It's well, we know it's going to be a collective. Everybody has to come together and understand that this team is depleted at wide receiver. They're getting, at one point a fairly good wide receiver back, but in the last couple of seasons, he's been on the decline. Daniel Jones, who I can't wait to talk to, has been having a good season, but he isn't a elite quarterback that we can consider, a threat to dominate this team in the passing game. So everybody has to be on one accord and understanding flying to the ball is, essential. getting your hand and hitting somebody is essential, because when you're dealing with a player like Saquon, you have to be disciplined. Saquon can sneak out and make a lot of men miss in one play. And Houston has had issues throughout this entire year in terms of missed tackles. So ideally, you would like for them to be better. We've been praying that they'll be better since week one. It hasn't necessarily gotten better. But for Lovie Smith, I think overall, he has to do what he did in the first half against the Eagles. Mix up your defensive fronts. Put some stunts out there. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Evan Neal still out, or is he back?
Yes, he will probably be out this week.
And who's going to be playing right tackle?
Tyree Phillips.
So for Houston defensively, you're getting Malik Collins back. You know, he's a good player up front, but you got to mix up those fronts. You got to send a couple of extra guys. Lovie Smith was sending Christian Kirksey a lot against the Eagles. Steven Nelson, who got a sack. Desmond King, who was effective in the game. So everybody has to be utilized, and I think in certain situations. And overall, you really may want to force the Giants to be in more of those third and long situations. That way you have an opportunity to, for the most part, take the ball out of Saquon's hands as a runner, because Houston has been getting gashed all year by running backs. We had a backup running back run for over 120 yards on the Texans defense. That's unacceptable.
You know, and speaking of which, the Giants are averaging less than 5 yards per carry on first downs, which is a big reason behind their slow starts. And you know, I asked offensive coordinator Mike Kafka today about that. I said, you know, what did you guys learn about your slow starts and what to do about them, you know, while you were in the bye week? And, you know, Kafka predictably didn't give any specifics, but he says, oh, we really looked through it. And he says, I'm really pleased with the data we have. And we're going to, you know, we've got some ideas on how we're going to get off to that quicker start. But, you know, the Giants, they've been a second half team, which is kind of frustrating because the offense comes out and it's like they don't get anything done. I think, you know, against the Seahawks, I want to say they finally scored early in the game. I think also in the Jaguars. But the Giants have been outscored by opponents in the first half of the game. You got to play a full 60 minutes. Otherwise, guess what? You're not winning the game, you know? And I think the reason why the Giants have won the game, why they are 6-2, is because there has been a late game mistake that they have been able to capitalize on. And, you know, I look at the Texans. I believe Davis Mills has thrown 4 interceptions over the last 4 games. He's also been sacked, 30-something times, 31 times, if I'm not mistaken. So some problems with his offensive lines. Yeah. So there are going to be some opportunities that the Giants can potentially create if the trend continues forward. And, you know, that's what I think we're looking at in terms of this game, because the Giants formula, they start off slow. They're a second half team, and they're capitalizing on the other team's mistakes while minimizing their own mistakes. And we saw against the Seahawks, the Giants made mistakes that they just weren't good enough to overcome. And by the way, the Seahawks figured out how to take away Daniel Jones's legs and Saquon Barkley's legs. So I don't know if you agree with me on that, but I would fully expect the Texans to maybe copy a little bit of what the Seahawks did.
And I'll say this on the offensive side for Houston. We look at the game against the last NFC East opponent, came out all year, having scored on their first drive, did it against the Eagles, started fast, 14 points in their first half. Second half, only 3 points. And so to kind of, you know, not boost the Giants, but looking at the second half team you guys are, as you just mentioned, that will play in your favor. Houston has been in several games this year. Houston has either had the lead in the second half or going into the fourth quarter, and they've been able to lose it because they are not playing consistent football. And so, again, for the Giants, that may be an area where you guys can exploit in this game. Now, we'll say this. Davis Mills talked about the Giants and being a heavy blitz team. He said that one of the big things we've been talking about is staying out of third and longs. No quarterback wants to be in a third and long situation. And Houston does not necessarily thrive under third and long situations. But the Giants blitz at approximately a 40% rate. How critical has Wink Martindale been for the Giants' 6-2 season so far?
Oh, my gosh. You know, every defensive coordinator who comes in says they want to be aggressive. And as we have learned here in New York, Wink Martindale's style of aggression isn't Patrick Graham's style. Wink is not afraid to live and die by the blitz. All right. If he gets burned, all right, you know what? It happens. But he doesn't let it get to him. And, you know, I think the reason why the Giants have won the game, why they are 6-2, is because they have been able to capitalize on the other team's mistakes. And, you know, the Giants formula, they start off slow. They're a second half team, while minimizing their own mistakes. And we saw against the Eagles, the Giants made mistakes that they just weren't good enough to overcome. And, you know, I think the reason why the Giants have won the game, why they are 6-2, is because they have been outscored by opponents in the first half of the game. And, you know, the Giants formula, they start off slow. They're a second half team, while minimizing their own mistakes. And, you know, I think the reason why the Giants have won the game, why they are 6-2, is because they have been outscored by opponents in the first half of the game. And, you know, I think the reason why the Giants have won the game, why they are 6-2, is because they have been ou that's not going to change his desire to impose the defense's will on the offense. And the players love him for that. There's been a few times they've gotten burned, but not as much as you would have thought would be the case. So Wink has been creative. And here's the beauty with Wink Martindale. He never runs the same defense from week to week. He changes it up. So, you might see some funky looking formations. You might see some different philosophies from, say, the Seattle game to now to the Texans game. He changes up and he does a really good job of putting guys in position to make plays. And his players just absolutely love him. He's a character, Wink, and I had my doubts how he was going to work out with the Giants, because he's an alpha male. What he aspires to be a head coach, but he has just been an absolute godsend for this Giants defense.
You hear that, Lovey? It's okay to switch it up. It's okay to make adjustments week to week, quarter by quarter, half by half. It's okay to get out of your norm, because that is something here in Houston that fans and media members have been screaming, just change. It's 2022. It's not, the cover two is not going to work in 2022. So Wink Martindale, I know, has been a godsend for you guys. A lot of my friends and buddies have been talking about how much they love the Ravens for allowing Wink to leave, because he's done amazing things for that defense.
He certainly has. We're certainly lucky to have him and Mike Kafka and Brian Dable. This coaching staff has made a huge difference for the Giants. A big reason why they are 6-2. And, talent's part of it, obviously, but the coaching, this is like the best coaching staff this team has had, bar none, since I want to say the prime of the Tom Coughlin years. And we're talking, we've got to go back a while before we can make that statement.
It's been a long time.
It certainly has. All right, folks, we're going to take one more quick break. When we come back, John and I are going to be on the spot. We're going to give you predictions, and we're going to wrap things up on this special crossover edition of the LockedOn Giants podcast and the LockedOn Texans podcast. So don't go anywhere. And now a word from our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline is your number one source for football betting info this season. Find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth articles and analysis on every game, both college and NFL. And BetOnline doesn't stop there. It's your continued source for all your sports wagering information, with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including NHL, NBA, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head on over to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the games start. All right, Giants and Texan fans, we are back on this special crossover edition of the LockedOn Giants and LockedOn Texans podcast. We hope you're enjoying the show. My name is Patricia Traina, host of the LockedOn Giants podcast, joined by John Hickman, co-host of the LockedOn Texans podcast. And John, this is the part of the show that just makes me like, because I'm so
We
bad.
Gotta do it. We gotta do it.
I'm so bad at it, but we got to give our predictions. So I'm going to put you on the spot first because, we are the host, and I'm going to let you.
Northern hospitality. Again, this is the first time that I've gotten it. I have a best friend from New York, and he doesn't even do this.
Well, I'm from Jersey, so if that matters any.
That's a difference. I'm going to let him know that too. So predictions for this game. Listen, I think that the New York Giants right now, as unexpected as this 6-2 season is, they're still a good team. So you don't get to 6-2 and not be a good team. And I think that Sunday they will, on the ground, dominate the Houston Texans. I have no other reason to believe otherwise. And I think that because of the Texans' bad second half performances and the Giants, who, by the way, I can't wait to ask you about this, so I'll say that separately. But the Giants have been a much better team in the second half. That just doesn't bode well for the Houston Texans. And so I see the Giants winning this game. And I like to give score predictions. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any means. I see this game 17-13 Giants.
Ooh, you're going low. You're going low with the score.
I'm going low.
Okay.
I think Houston will be competitive to start the game, though.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, so my listeners always say to me, gosh, Pat, You always say that a game makes you nervous or you're concerned about a game. Now, no disrespect to the Texans
because
because they
this
do
isn't the
have some
game to
good
be nervous
players.
about.
They do have some good players, but I'm feeling pretty good about the Giants' chances this week. And I'll even go so far as to say that I think the Giants might be able to get as many as 27 points. So I'm going to go 27. Let's go 27-21. We'll, we'll
Ah,
we'll we'll say that the Giants.
ah,
I don't know what the spread. I think the spread's 6.5
I
points.
was just about to ask you, what is the
I
spread?
think it's 6.5 points. Giants are favored. I don't know if it's gone up or not. I haven't. I should have checked before we recorded, but I do think the Giants will win, 27-21. The Texans, they have their play, Brandon Cooks plays, and I don't know if he's going to play. I saw he's going to practice. He's a guy, obviously, you know, you got to keep an eye on. Like I said, Damian Pierce against that Giants run defense. That's a concern for me, as we said, early on. So there are some interesting matchups that if they don't fall the way you expect them to, could be a long day.
Yeah, I think so too. I do want to ask you about, first year head coach Brian Dable, who I believe at this moment has to be the coach of the year if the season stopped, in my opinion. But he's done some amazing things for Daniel Jones, who he doesn't have eye-popping numbers, but I look up and 5 of those 6 wins are Daniel Jones game-winning drives. So
Mm.
he trusts him, and Daniel Jones, or he's delivering. How important has Dable been for Daniel Jones, who, by the way, could possibly get that 50-year option picked up, or is he
No, they
going
declined
into?
it.
They
They declined
declined
his
it, but
option.
does it look like he has a future here in Houston with in New York with Brian Dable as his head coach?
You know what? I think the jury's still out on him because
That's fair.
has Daniel looked better? Yes. Is he still doing things that make you say, Daniel, what are you doing? Like, is he missing guys? Is he, are some of his decisions, head scratchers? Yeah, you could say that. But that being said, you're not saying it on every play. Daniel has made far more plays and far more right decisions than he has not. And that's a good thing. And Brian Dable, one of the things he did that was so key, and I can't, talk about this enough, is when he came in, he said to him, okay, you know what? We're going to find out what you can do. Not Daniel, don't try this throw, or Daniel, don't try that throw.
Mhm.
You start getting in a kid's head and telling him, don't do this, don't do that. Now, all of a sudden, whether you mean to or not, you're going to create doubt. And I think that's what happened with the previous staff. They played it too conservatively with him. So, Daniel, in a lot of ways, and I know people are going to disagree with me when I say this, he's been reborn, if you will, under Brian Dable. So I'm not going to say he's like a rookie because he's not a rookie, obviously, but you're finally seeing a guy who's not afraid to take chances, who's doing a better job of making decisions, where to go with the ball. Now, is he doing a good job with his second and third reads? Not all the time, no. So there's still growth there. The question at the end of the year for the Giants, one of the many questions when they decide whether or not to keep him or not, is he going to get even better or has he topped out? And, management, Joe Shane, Brian Dable, they keep talking about how much they love Daniel, how he's done everything they've asked him to do. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. And we'll see if the Giants
True.
decide to extend him. And if so, for how long?
That's true. Action do speak louder than words, and right now he's about that action. If I come to Jersey, where should I go eat? That's my last one. Where, without a shadow
What
of
do
a
you
doubt?
like? What do you like?
Oh man, everything. I'm a
No,
foodie.
seriously, tell me what you like and I'll tell you where to go.
Oh man, I like a good steak and I like seafood.
Oh, you like okay, so if you go to seafood, I think Chart House is pretty good down in Weehawken.
Chart House.
There's also a Roots Chris, I believe, down there as well.
We have a
But I'm
Ruth
just trying
Chris
to
here, so
yeah, but seafood actually, if Chart House is still there, and I trying to think if they are. They were really good. I went there with my husband once, and we really enjoyed it. Steaks. See, I'm more familiar with Central Jersey because that's where I live. So I don't know where you would end up staying, but you know what?
What is Central Jersey's food like a go-to?
Oh, we got a great barbecue place. We've got some, Princeton. The Princeton area is great.
Okay, I'm in Texas. Don't say barbecue. What is it called? What's the name of the place? What's some of those places?
Boss Hog. It was pretty good.
Oh, Boss Hog. Okay.
Boss Hog, and it's authentic Texas barbecue, not the grilled stuff. We're talking
Okay.
the pink ring around the meat.
All right. That's what I like right there.
Yes.
Well, I really had a great conversation, a great time with you today. With our conversation is we never get this. There's people
Yeah.
I see all the time, each and every year, never get this opportunity. And so, thank you so much for this great opportunity and conversation we had tonight.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and hopefully the game will be a lot of fun. And if you come up,
Hopefully.
make sure you come over to say hello to me. I'll be there on Sunday. So if you do make the trip, say hello.
I will.
And we'll catch up. We'll sit and we'll have coffee or something. It's 1:00
Cool.
game, Giants and Texans, 1:00 Sunday, MetLife Stadium. Giants looking to push forward, get another win under their belt, so that they can continue to keep up with the Cowboys and the Eagles in the NFC East. And the Texans, God bless them.
We're playing for the number one pick here.
They're playing for the number one pick. Yes.
That's what it is.
All right. That's going to do it for us on this crossover edition of the LockedOn Giants and LockedOn Texans podcast. Hope you enjoyed everything. Folks, make sure you check out LockedOn Texans daily. They're on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts. Also, same thing for LockedOn Giants. We're going to be live on the LockedOn Giants podcast on Friday night. You'll want to check that out. And thank you for making us your first listen of the day, or if watching on YouTube, your first watch of the day. For John Hickman, I'm Patricia Traina. Enjoy the rest of your week, everybody.